Hello there, people. This is Frankenstein Chapter 9 review, and we get to kind of take a bit of a breath in Chapter 9 after the major events that happened in the previous chapters and the trial of Justine. Um, Chapter 9, Victor needs a break. What comes to mind is like that Southwest Airlines ad, "Want to get away?" Victor would really like to get away. He would like to get away from all of his problems, but he can't escape the guilt and the wretchedness that he feels. So it starts out, and first of all, in my class, we've been talking a lot about romanticism in literature and how when the author, Mary Shelley, is writing in this style, it is because characters need a reset. Humans need a reset. And the best way for people to kind of get through something that is very difficult is to reconvene with nature. So many problems with phones and cell phone addiction these days. Leave the phones behind. The phones are just a horrible source of misery and antagonism, and people getting, what you scroll on and what you click on, and then giving you more of that to make you angry. And so it's a real problem. Like for Victor, he has this anger in him about the situation, how he has no control and he needs to get away. So words like in the first paragraph, "The blood flowed freely in my veins, but a weight of despair and remorse pressed on my heart, which nothing could remove. Sleep fled from my eyes. I wandered like an evil spirit, for I had committed deeds of mischief beyond description, horrible. And more, much more, I persuaded myself was yet behind." So he doesn't know what the creature's been up to, so he's dreading finding out. Like at some point he may find out. So his desire, his quest for knowledge, his quest to be God, his quest to create has gotten him to this point of misery. So he's not sleeping, and that never is good for people. People need sleep. Later in that paragraph, "I was seized by remorse and the sense of guilt which hurried me away to a hell of intense tortures, such as no language can describe." I mean, like, it's horrible. Earlier in the story, Mary Shelley had referenced Dante, and I highly recommend looking up the 9 levels of hell that Dante wrote about. It's what Mary Shelley is referencing here as just like this horrible, horrible place that he is living in this state of mind. "This state of mind preyed upon my health, which had perhaps never entirely recovered from the first shock it had sustained," his nervous breakdown when he had created the creature. In the end of that paragraph, the little clip here, "Solitude was my only consolation, deep, dark, death-like solitude." Nice alliteration there with the D's. So this chapter continues. He's talking with his father and with Elizabeth. First, his father talks to him about despair and grief and mourning. And, like when you lose someone in your life, like if you're a young person, you may lose a grandparent. And I remember when I was young and I lost a grandparent or 2 or 3, you come to realize that death when people are old is something that is coming. But death for people who are young is a shock, and it changes you, and it changes your trajectory, it changes your life, it changes your perspective. And his dad is saying, in the previous chapter, he had said, "Come not bearing vengeance, but peace and goodwill for others, for the assassin." I already talked about that in a previous video. But the dad is giving him more advice that says, "Listen, you can have grief, like you should have grief. It's a duty owed to yourself, but excessive sorrow prevents improvement or enjoyment or even the discharge of daily usefulness, without which no man is fit for society. And if you go back 200 years, there's a lot of death. There's a lot more death than there is now in today's society. And he's saying, you have to be able to get up. You have to get out of bed. You have to do your daily tasks. You need to keep going through each day. Do your chores, go to the gym, work out, work on your mental health, your physical health. They're all connected. So he's saying, Victor, do your daily duties, more alliteration, your daily discharge of usefulness, without which no man is fit for society. Like, you can't just wallow in misery. So get your act together and get out there and live. And that is kind of his father's message. Now, he says this advice, although good, was totally inapplicable to my case, because he is the one who has created this problem. So it's a bit of a disconnect. The father is innocently giving advice because Victor hasn't told him anything, but Victor can't take the advice to heart because he has this huge guilt complex because he's the creator of the creature. So anyhow, as we get further in, he says, about this time we retired to our house at Bellerive, and then this is starting to get him closer to nature. The sentence right there, in a couple of sentences in, I was now free. We're starting to get the feeling of healing. He doesn't like the way the gates close at 10 o'clock, but now when he's up at their place, like in the country, there are no gates. He's free to wander. He's free to come and go out on the lake, stay out all night. The next sentence, he actually talks about going out on the lake and then floating and just stopping in the middle. And he contemplates like just going in the water and going under and never coming back. But he would not do that because he's afraid of what the creature will yet do, and he doesn't want to leave his loved ones behind. So he's still like in search of the creature so that he can try to solve this problem that he created. In the next paragraph, he is lamenting about his role. Like, he played God, and it's almost like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You did this, and now you are going to suffer. This is what you have earned for yourself. He says, I had been the author of unalterable evils. You are going forward. You can't go back in time. You can't undo what you've done. I had created, the monster whom I created should perpetrate some new wickedness. He's afraid of what is yet to come. And then finally, he does take a bit of responsibility. I ardently wished to extinguish that life which I had so thoughtlessly bestowed. It's important that he's acknowledging, like, I did it. But then he wants to extinguish that. He wants to kill him. But didn't he make him gigantic? Didn't he make him superhuman? Didn't he make him like Captain America? He can heal. In the beginning, it was like none but a violent death would kill this creature. So he knows this is going to be a challenge. So it's kind of silly that he's wishing that he could just take him out. He says, I wished to see him again, that I might wreak the utmost extent of abhorrence on his head and avenge the deaths of William and Justine. It's like a little kid, where some big person is holding them down, and I can just almost picture him like, this is what I want to do. So anyway, then Elizabeth in the next big paragraph is talking about her before and after, and how she just feels like such misery. She said, I no longer see the world and its works as they appear before me, as they before appeared to me. She is talking about reading about evils. At least they were remote then, but this is happening to me. This is happening to us, and we can't get away from it, and it's real. let's see. The men appear to me as monsters thirsting for each other's blood. She's referring to the trial of Justine. She said, everybody believed that poor girl to be guilty. It was this mob scene. It was this crazy lust for blood that the people had kind of heard that, this was the circumstance that Justine, did it. Oh, that ungrateful child. And gosh, it reminds me so much of today when people are angry and they want vengeance and they want to kill and they are out there killing. It's not good. It's evil. And so that's what Elizabeth is highlighting. She's like, this is an evil situation, an evil society where everybody is against this innocent girl. So it just, again, Mary Shelley, genius writing and connecting to these human conditions that we are still experiencing today. So Elizabeth later in that paragraph, but she was innocent. I know, I feel she was innocent. So she's even not 100% sure, but she is sure. And then she says, William and Justine were assassinated and the murderer escapes. He walks about the world free. But Victor in the next paragraph says, I listened to this discourse with the extremest agony. I, not in deed, but in effect, was the true murderer. He acknowledges his role and responsibility, but says nothing. He has not admitted to anyone, so it is still a big, giant secret. She notices that Victor is very wretched, that there's an expression of despair in his countenance. And she says, and sometimes revenge, like she can see it. He talks about gnashing his teeth, that he is so upset. And but he's afraid. He's afraid that the creature will come to the people he loves. Even at the end of the next paragraph, he says, even as she spoke, I drew near to her as if in terror, lest at that very moment the destroyer had been near to rob me of her. So his legitimate fears. Metaphorical thing, the wounded deer in the next paragraph. And then it finally gets, the last like 6 paragraphs are all about this going into nature and rediscovering the peace that is offered in God's creation, in the real nature. He wants to, quote, forget myself, because and my ephemeral because human sorrows. My wanderings were directed toward the valley of Chamounix. He had visited it frequently during my boyhood. Sorry, I can't read today. 6 years had passed since then. I was a wreck. So he's going out seeking nature to help him heal. And so then just look at and pay close attention to, if you wanted to quote anything from Romanticism, you would use all of the beautiful scenes in the next several paragraphs: the ascending the mountains, the valley, the grass, the high snowy, the immense glaciers, the supreme and magnificent Mont Blanc, a tingling long-lost sense of pleasure often came across me during this journey. That's a great quote for Romanticism. And then we're at the end, and he says, the kindly influence, nature bade me weep no more. Then again, the kindly influence ceased to act. I found myself fettered again to grief and indulging in all the misery of reflection. But he keeps going, and at length he arrived at the village of Chamounix. Sometimes he just wants to flop on the grass, but at the very end, the same lulling sounds acted as my lullaby to my too keen sensations. It's like having this nervous prickling feeling. When I placed my head upon a pillow, sleep crept over me. I felt as it came. And blessed the giver of oblivion. So excellent way to show that Victor is healing from all of this misery, and he's sleeping finally. So anyway, that's chapter 9, and boy, it sets up chapter 10 really nicely. Chapter 10's a good one, very exciting. So coming right up, but we'll see you on the next one.